The mountains have always been my happy place. A serene escape from a depraved society. Reprieve from the relentless pace of modern life. A place where thoughts can slow and one can don a holy cloak of beauty and nature to shield oneself from the profane. A retreat to regroup, to think, process, and return, if not a better man, at least a more peaceful one. I needed a retreat. To hide in the mountains. From what? Life has been moving too fast. Days are passing like a single frame in a stop-motion film, gone before I knew what they meant. The cacophony of the city grated on me, a never-ceasing hive of colorful locusts in constant motion. A sense of malaise, of purposelessness, coiled around me like a serpent, softly whispering of the futility of it all. Most of all, the relationship I share with my fiancé was suffering. That ethereal rope between us was strained, frayed strands popping one by one, both of us watching it happen, and yet not knowing how to abate the tension. We found ourselves in a pattern we both were seemingly helpless to break, and so I told myself that while my wonderful son was away with his mother, I needed to retreat to the closest thing that I have to a church. The embrace of the valleys, peaks, lakes, and streams of the Rocky Mountains. I told my fiancée the night before of my plans, encouraging her to join me, hoping it would be a healing balm, a chance to reset. Reluctantly, she agreed to join me. Though, she said we should drive separately in case that I decided to stay longer than she. I gathered my belongings in a frenzy, tossing my bags in the backseat, and I resigned myself to a fitful sleep. Early the next morning, I arose, sipping on the blackest tea that I could find. So I'm gonna go and do a ton of hiking, have a ton of fun. I'm gonna bring you guys along with me. Let's get this seatbelt on, and let's get on driving. And wound my way through the canyons to Estes Park and the beautiful Rocky Mountains. Because it allowed me to avoid the persistent annoyance of the timed entry system, I decided to ascend to the top of the Twin Sisters, a hike which I had yet to complete. I was lucky enough to get the very last parking spot at the Twin Sisters trailhead, so we're going to see what this hike's all about. The sky was a rich blue, the sun shining brightly, and the temperature perfect as I ascended the mountain, armed only with cashews, water, and my trusty phone, which I had enlisted to help me document my journey. The hike started winding through a thick evergreen forest, then through a series of endless ascensions and switchbacks. Before long, the bellowing of my lungs and the pounding of my heart calmed my mind, creating fertile soil for the nobler thoughts. Wonderings about the nature of time, the impermanence of life, and the challenges of human relationships swirled as I emerged from the forest through the final rocky ascent that carried me from the last vestiges of the forest into a rock-strewn alpine tundra. The otherworldly beauty briefly silenced even those thoughts. The trails continued winding, seemingly ever upwards, until the peaks of the Twin Sisters loomed above me, their stern countenance a challenge to me. I took a break at their base to enjoy the absolute silence. No birds or voices, no cars or planes. For a brief moment, not even the soft whisper of the breeze. For some reason, my thoughts kept drifting back to my recent vacation to the Siesta Key Beach, where my son, fiancé, and I built sand castles on the shore. And basically to the top of the Twin Sisters hike. So if you can see behind me, there's a couple peaks. I think the Twin Sisters are this one off to the edge here, and this one that is behind me here. A few weeks ago, we were in Siesta Key, Florida, which is an amazingly beautiful beach, and my son and I were building sand castles. And it struck me that people don't seem to care that a sandcastle is impermanent. You build it and you know it's going to get washed away by the tide or stepped on by a monstrous child or devastated by a hurricane or the wind or any other form of disaster. But we accept that. It's this form of beauty that we make, we create, we enjoy for just a split moment in time, and then we know it's gone, and part of that is what makes it beautiful. Why don't we look at all of life like with relationships, we hold on to them like there's some permanent thing that's going to last forever. And the reality is no matter what, it's going to end, whether that's death or divorce or breakup or infidelity, whatever it might be, or careers or companies or homes or cities. We want everything to be forever. I was just thinking these mountains aren't going to be here forever. This trail's not going to be here forever. Eventually the continents are going to shift and this is going to be gone. The rain is going to over time wash rock away and change things ever so slightly. Today is the only day ever that I'm going to be in the state that I'm in, that this mountain is going to be in the state it's in, that the universe is going to be in the state it's in.
It's simple, imperfect, and completely unique and will never, ever be replicated again. I think there's something crazy beautiful about that. I think when you zoom out and look at things that way, stuff doesn't seem so serious. It's really cool. It's like 12:05 and already I've come from my house and climbed to the top of a mountain, filmed a bunch of video, talking to you guys a little bit, doing a lot of thinking. I don't know why, but when you're away from home, the days just feel richer, fuller, and more fun. Like you pack so much more into them because you know there's not that much time. You know, I'm only going to be here for 4, maybe 5 days. And even though it's only 60 minutes from my house, I don't often get to just come stay up here. I usually have to drive an hour and a half.
When this brief respite had ended, I decided to ascend the mountain. After a short climb and a brief hello to the first people I'd seen in quite some time, I sat atop the mountain, slack-jawed and in awe at the panorama that unfolded around me. In one direction, for as far as the eye could see, was an unending field of mountains, lorded over by Long's Peak and Mount Meeker. If I turned, far in the distance, I could see the plains at the base of the Rocky Mountains. Soon, my companions left, and I sat on top of the mountain, totally alone, except for my thoughts. Unfortunately, my reverie was soon shattered by the chirping of my phone. It was my fiancée telling me that she would not be joining me that day after all, but would the next day. My mind, of course, raced anxiously, assuming the worst, and I had to take a brief moment to console myself and talk to the camera, for at that moment it seemed as if it was the only companion that I had. I need to get better at self-soothing. Like when something bothers me, I need to get better at being able to calm myself and not let anxiety tear me up and not spiral into worry, because right now I'm thinking, oh goodness, she doesn't want to get married anymore, she doesn't want to spend time with me, and it's just, I feel like a disaster brewing in my chest. I have to debate those thoughts and say that's not true and just try to have a good time, because the fact is that whether I'm alone or with somebody, I'm in this beautiful place, in one of the most beautiful places in the country, on top of a mountain, all by myself right now. It's peaceful, it's quiet, the weather is fantastic. You know, I need to be able to enjoy this moment independent of what other people are doing. And you know, the concept of amor fati, which is like basically like love whatever happens to you, I could look at this as a chance to practice that skill, to practice not letting someone else put me off balance, and to practice taking care of myself, and to practice empathy and kindness, to assume she's suffering or not feeling her best or in emotional turmoil as well and just can't handle it today. Maybe it's not a punishment to me, maybe it's her taking care of herself. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out, a little self-therapy while I'm up here. I descended the mountain, once more losing myself in the monotonous rhythm of my footfalls and the endless loops of thoughts that chase themselves tirelessly. Upon the exhausting return to my car, I drove to Estes Park where I had a lunch of fajitas, and then I checked into my hotel. I felt a bittersweet sadness unwind as I sat alone in the room. This had been the first time that I had ever stayed in the mountains without either my son or fiancé. Frustrated, I retreated to my car and drove to Bear Lake, where I decided to spend the evening watching the sunset and gazing at the stars. Nature, of course, had other plans, as dark clouds blanketed the sky, obscuring both the sunset and the stars. Still, traipsing around the alpine lake, enjoying the rippling reflections of mountain peaks on the water, and listening to the soft murmur of other hikers as they enjoyed the lake, acted as a balm for my heart. And, for a time, I found peace and contentment. The next morning, after a fitful sleep, I arose to a notification that my fiancé would be joining me. Feelings of joy and unease unfolded. Joy at seeing her, at the opportunity to share one of my favorite places with one of my favorite people. Underneath it all, I heard a whisper, "What if you can't get along, even here?" What does that mean? We met up in town, embraced nervously, and walked about. We were to be married in a beautiful open space outside of Estes Park in less than 40 days. So we took this time to try and get reservations at a few restaurants, and then, after a quick lunch, drove to Hermit Park Open Space, the location of our wedding. It was beautiful, and seeing my bride there, walking amongst the aspen and birch trees, chattering about where to have the buffet, where to have the games, and pondering what color tablecloth she would like, gave me heart. Since the first time I saw her face, though it was just a picture, I felt the currents of my life change, as if I were on a raft that had suddenly been diverted to a different river, swept up in its strong currents. That some things are meant to be, regardless of what plans we have. Seeing her there, under the pavilion, in the meadows, cloaked in a silence broken only by occasional birdsong. I remembered that feeling. My heart calmed, and the future felt somehow steadier. After exploring the wedding location, we headed off to a nearby trail called Kruger Rock. Clouds gathered over a nearby mountain, advising us to hike with alacrity, so I captured little video. But it was a wonderful trek to a beautiful summit that overlooked the entire Estes Valley. We didn't see another soul as we wound our way through the woods and summited Kruger. Rain eventually forced us from the summit, and we hurried back to the car, though I was grateful for the cloudy, serene, and damp walk through the woods with my love. After gorging ourselves on a large dinner, we ended the day with a magic show at the Stanley Hotel. After a relaxed breakfast, we decided to do a shorter and easier hike to the wild basin of the national park, Ozell Falls. This hike follows Ozell Creek, a beautiful mountain stream that meanders down from an alpine lake. The trail winds through thick, verdant forests of evergreens and birch. The rest of the time it traces the stream, offering bountiful views of the river and its many waterfalls, including Copeland Falls, Calypso Cascade, Ozell Falls, and many others, smaller and seemingly unnamed. Our hike concluded to Ozell Falls, where we relaxed, enjoyed each other's company, and even made friends with a rather aggressive chipmunk and its much more reserved friend. The hike back was leisurely and relaxing. My fiancée and I used this time to discuss what marriage means to us and what things we need from one another. She left the next morning, and I went off on a solo adventure for the day, though I was somewhat limited due to a rather sore knee. I meandered my way up Fall River Road, a drive that was new to me. On the way, I stopped at Chasm Falls and Chapin Creek, before the Fall River Road dumped me at the Alpine Center near the top of Trail Ridge Road. I was lucky enough to find a parking spot where I could explore a trail that snaked its way through the alpine tundra, culminating in a beautiful rock outcropping, where I sat, feeling as if I were on top of the world, and took in the scenery as the cold wind tussled my hair. Several times during the trip, I felt that I was in another world, and this was certainly one of the most pronounced instances. I tried to hide from my problems in the mountains, and as all who are wise already know, our worries always come with us. Wherever you go, there you are, they say. My problems came with me. My relationship problems, my anxiety, my worries, my lack of knowing what I want to do with the remainder of my life. But the cool air, the cradling valleys, the soaring peaks, the talkative streams cleared my mind to allow me to think. The beauty, grandeur, and solitude softened my heart and allowed me to feel. The change of sights and sounds and smells allowed me to step outside of my habits, of the mental cage that guided my actions back in the real world. Most importantly, I was able to reconnect with my fiancée and realize that while we had been going through some struggles, the love, connection, passion, and caring was always there. It was just obscured in the fog of day-to-day living. I can say one thing with certainty. Next time I'm lost or I feel disconnected from my partner, I intend to not hide from my problems, but rather bring them with me to the place that I love the most, the mountains.